Being a dad is hard. It's high stakes. It takes a toll on our self-worth, mental health, and can be lonely. But why would we ever want to do something so important in isolation? Legacy Makers, a conversation for dads, is quite simply two normal dads having conversations about, you guessed it, being a dad. The highs, the lows, and the learnings along the way. We are four dads. We want to remedy the deficiency we see in community for dads, and we want to ruthlessly encourage dads on their journey to build lasting legacy for the faces they love the most.
All right, we're back. Episode 3, talking about Legacy Makers. I think we should talk about being there. So we talked about community last time, but like, what does it look like to be there? Hey,
being there with your kids, family, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Just like,
I'm with you.
And actually, that line, be there, came out of, you should actually tell them this story, because I think this is the third time we're hanging out. This is the third time we're mentioning Mike Lynch, but this time not in a positive one. This is Mike Lynch was in a panel interview with you, and you had pre-programmed questions,
Always.
And then he went off script, right?
Always, yeah.
Okay, tell me about that.
Yeah, so when we were talking about launching this Legacy Makers group at the church, I got to, actually it was Father's Day, so got to go up and connect with him.
This is like Sunday morning. This is like
Sunday
big
morning.
church.
Like I'm going from like meetings, corporate environment, to now I am officially on stage at church. Never thought that would happen, but we were just having this good conversation about fatherhood and kind of teasing this Legacy Makers group. And as you know, any good panel Q&A, it's not just you show up and you have a conversation. I need to know my questions. I got to be thoughtful and be super eloquent and smart and funny and all the things. And he went off script. And not only did he go off script, but he asked one of those questions that you're not prepared for as a dad who loves his 4 children immensely. Like, it can choke you up, tears. He said, all right.
Or you can sound really dumb.
Or you can sound super dumb. Like, I mean, do you talk about the critique? A couple of my kids were in the audience. He said, all right, end of the day, end of your life. What do you want Camden, Bennett, Anderson, and Evelyn to say about their dad? And I looked at him with this look of like, are you flipping serious, dude? Like, really? What felt like probably a 30-second pause was real quick, and I just said, I want them to say that I was there. And as I look back on that, I think that was probably, I could have thought about it and maybe had something a little bit more eloquent, and I'm a little long-winded, and I could have probably said a bunch, but to me, that's vital. But I think there's, I want to talk to you a little bit today about what that means to be there, because there's a very different, you can mean differently. So,
this I think is going to be an important conversation that we need to have, because when I walked out of my house this morning to get in the car to come over to do this, Laura and I are going to see a show tonight. We're going to see Hamilton with a couple friends, and our kids, specifically our oldest George, was like, why do you have to be gone tonight? Why do we have to have a babysitter again? So I like this idea of being there, but I also feel like I have a ton of dad guilt sometimes about times that I'm not there. Going to be gone tonight, then I've got a work trip, then we got things this weekend. So yeah, I guess I'm curious for the dads listening and for me and you, how do we decide how much is enough time to be there? When do we need to be there? How do we need to be there? Because there's times I'm there, but I'm not there. Like I'm physically there, but I'm not there.
Yeah, listen, there's a couple things that come to my mind. The first thing I will tell you is, as your friend, I will tell you that your kids need to see you doing things that aren't revolving around them, I believe. I love my children dearly. The whole kind of reason we're having this conversation is how do we be better dads?
Yeah.
So it's counterintuitive to say you don't need to be there all the time, but I believe that. I think they need to see relationships. Most importantly, they need to see your relationship with their mom, and that is the most important relationship, because if that's not thriving, then the whole house falls apart. Mm-hmm. And you want to model that. And so I would just, as to encourage you, as part of your community, as we talked about last episode, I would say don't have that guilt.
Which I think, by the way, is just that whole concept is counter to what you'll hear on most like conversations about being a dad. It focuses on the time with them being your kids. But if we're only spending time with our kids. We're not doing the community thing that we talked about last
Right.
time. Okay, so that's key. But my question is when we're there. Like, let me tell you, I have this new, I don't even know if we've talked about this. I have this box thing at my house called the Aro box. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
Okay. It's a gadget that the theory is that when I go home for at least a period of time, I will put my phone into this box so that it reminds me to physically be present with my kids. Can I tell you like what anxiety that gives me to put a phone and like walk away for 20 minutes?
I would have saved you some money. I could have given you a shoebox.
Yeah, that's true. But it's got an app on my
No, I
phone.
like
It
it. I
tells
like
me
it.
those kind of things. I'm just curious. Have you ever had that kind of deal? Like, my kids, I think, have become accustomed to seeing me. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I'm going to just, like, have my phone at the dinner table, look at things like
Yeah.
that to me is I'm there, but I'm not there.
Let me tell you a little story.
Okay.
Transparent
Are you going to make me
story.
feel better or worse?
You'll feel better about this one. So, movie nights are a big thing in our house, and we've done a pretty good job of making them special. And a few years ago, it was before the girls were born, Bennett, my, second boy, who's
Okay.
8 now, he was probably 3 or 4 years old, and we all sat down to watch a movie, and Bennett kind of scampered upstairs really quick, and we're wondering, okay, well, he's going to grab his teddy bear or whatever, and he comes down with my computer. And it wasn't like here, Dad, here. It was like he wanted affirmation. Dad, I know, like in his eyes, it was this belongs to my dad when he's here and he needs to be touching this thing.
Family time, it's time for him to use his computer.
Yeah, we'll all sit around and we'll watch a movie, but my dad likes this thing supposedly that I'm gonna go get affirmation from my dad. So you think about a gut punch that was, right? And it had become such a habit of incorporating. Look, we all multitask. We're sitting here and phones are buzzing. We're trying to do a lot of things at once. And am I perfect today? Absolutely not. There's times that has to happen. But that was a wake up call that my 3 or 4 year old son had connected that with this is my dad. And I think livelihood's important. I think working hard's important, but you also have to model, okay, so if that continues, right, think about the legacy that leaves for him. He will would have grown up with a dad that loves him and helps coach and things, but my dad is always connected to something else that's outside of this house, and that is then how he is going to live his life because that's how he believes, you know what I mean? So it's
amazing those moments that change how you think about things. That made me think of this is not directly correlated to a dad, but I was sitting at we were on a trip in South Africa, and a lady named Barbara Dooley was speaking. Her husband was a football coach at the University of Georgia one time. Go Dogs, there we go. But she was up there speaking, and while she was speaking, I was, checking a Brave score or something on my phone and doing something, and she mentioned my name, and I didn't realize she had mentioned it, and she said it again, and I looked up, and she said, Kevin, whatever's going on out there is not as important as what's going on here. And she said, wherever you are, be there.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. I struggle with it at work. I struggle with it in my relationship with Laura, and I struggle with it with kids. So I think the thing we need to figure out is how can we be there? So I guess the message of this could have been a 2-minute podcast if the message was
done.
be there
Let's
more.
wrap it. Yeah.
Like, all right, be there more. But it's not just be there more. I think it goes back to something you said in the very first conversation we had about intentionality. So having intentionality with being there. I'm curious how you do that. I got some ideas of how, I think about it particularly in creating experiences that kids will remember.
Yeah, so I think it comes back to the time that you are there, truly be there. We just kind of batted that back and forth. You got to try to find space. You have to separate. There's too much stuff pulling at you. For me, if I'm traveling 3-4 days, I come home, I've got a window of time, those 2 or 3 hours. I mentioned movie nights earlier. So you could have a movie night where, hey guys, we're going to watch a movie. What do you want to watch? Or how do you plus that up? How do you make it more memorable? One of the things we did, and we still do, is I'll get poster board and do like a movie poster. And hey, over the next week, we're going to have a movie night Friday night, and you earn tickets to go get popcorn or Cokes or whatever the things are. And then it becomes like a very different experience. And hey, it's Friday, we're going to order pizza and have a movie night. So what are the things that you can do as a dad? And it could even be a conversation. Like go take your son or daughter and go grab a hot chocolate and sit down and have a conversation. So I don't think that it has to be a really well thought out, massive experience. Take them to Disney World. You know, we were fortunate enough to take the boys to New York City at Christmas. I loved it. Absolutely amazing 2.5 days, right? It was a great trip. If you ask my kids what their favorite part of going to New York City around Christmas time is, they would tell you the hotel. It was like an old-timey hotel, and they thought the room was cool. And I'm like, we're going to Radio City Music Hall. We're going to go down. We're doing a $150 horse and carriage ride through the park. And it's free. I'm doing all these things. Like I watched Home Alone 2 50 times. I want to show them that. The hotel room was awesome. So it's like our kids have a very different expectation on these moments for us.
I like the idea of just plussing things up and being intentional. And it doesn't have to be expensive. There's, I think Daniel Kahneman says like that we experience like 20,000 individual moments within a day. But I don't think we remember like those moments, some of them, like neutral moments, we don't remember. We remember positive or negative ones.
Yeah.
And so creating those key moments as our kids are starting to get older, we're trying to figure out how to do that more. Last weekend, we had a babysitter for our youngest, and Laura did a date night with George, and I took Amelia to dinner. And it was really simple, but it was one of those moments that you hopefully remember.
Can I stamp that real
Yeah.
quick? So it started out just exactly where you're going. It's like, how do I, in a busy calendar, find intentional time one-on-one? And so this is something that our listeners, you know, I know you do this too, but I would encourage you to think about building in once a month for your kids. So with me, it's 4 now. I haven't started with the girls yet. I told Brittany, she keeps asking me, when are you going to start doing this with the girls? I'm like, I don't know. It was about time. But once a month, we go do exactly what you said. I have a one-on-one. It's typically breakfast or hot chocolate. And this started, Camden is 10. So it's been almost 5 years of this. And every time we do this, I take a selfie. So just to kind of stamp it. And it's become with Camden and Bennett, like even this morning, Benny was like, hey, it's February, whatever. We haven't had our February date yet. It's a ritual now, but it's something they'll remember. For me, I'm going to have 12 incremental one-on-one experiences if I'm disciplined in this per year while my kids are in my house. Am I going to have that time with them if I wasn't thoughtful? Yeah, probably. Taking that extra step and applying some intentionality, we're going to have this thing that's our thing. And I know that I'm going to have that time. It's built in my calendar. Of course, I'm not just seeing them once a month, but it's our time.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that I've learned from you because we're the same age. I'm a little bit further behind with our kids' age. And I love the way you ask them conversations. Like I've learned you've seen that on Instagram. Because my default is to do something that's wow. That's like, oh, it's got to be, this many donuts and it's got to be the water park. But the kind of conversations you've asked them, I mean, that's what I asked my son last week. We talked about encouragement. And we talked about what does that mean and who encourages you and how can you encourage other people. You mentioned one. I think when we think we're there, we're being there to teach our kids things. But sometimes when we're there, our kids teach us things. Yeah. Do you remember the story you told me about a conversation? Don't you ask your kids what they want to talk about?
Initially, I started this very profoundly. So it was like, in February, I want to talk about Martin Luther King. And I had this agenda and I found out very quickly that they're going to have to drive the conversation.
Okay, tell the one you told me about. I love telling the stories that make me feel better because they make you look worse. Tell the one about, I can't remember which son it was, but they wanted to talk about anger.
Yes.
Yeah, right, tell that.
It's really nice of you to bring that up. Yeah, so my oldest, Camden, like all of us, and one of the things we're talking about is like, you have got to take a breath. You're frustrated, you hit your brother, say things you don't mean, and it's been kind of a theme for a couple weeks. And so we get to little coffee spot. We sit down, and he said, "Hey, Dad, I want to talk to you about anger." And we've been talking about it, and and so mind you that 15 minutes prior, as we get into the car, his mother took the key, so I had to get out. There's zero gas. I don't know if your wife's like my wife. Like every time I get into any of the two cars, there's no gas in it, and I am like so aggravated. I'm under my breath saying things I probably shouldn't say in front of my son. And I'm just, my whole day has started. I'm frustrated. I have to get out. How dare I have to get out of the car and go find the keys, and there's no gas. And we sit down, and my 10-year-old son's like, "Dad, I want to talk about anger with you." Like, "Oh, you mean like what I just showed you was the absolute wrong way to respond?" But again, these are moments that you just have to apply some intentionality to them.
Yeah. I want this to be a reminder of two things. Number one, like you and I don't have it all together.
I do not. You might.
No, I definitely don't. But on the other end, like we are trying to be intentional. And I do want, like, since we've talked about encouragement, like I think you do a really good job of trying to be intentional with your kids, showing them. So I appreciate how you've shown me that. I do want to talk about those moments. Like there's the one-on-one conversations, but how do you, if you can't be there all the time, I'm trying to think of what are my kids going to remember about me?
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to remember about the things that I did with them?
And what's amplifying that in your mind is a likely urgency and probably some guilt because, again, you're getting ready to go on a trip. We got things going on. What I would tell you, and I'd have to try to remind myself of this all the time, and it was an senior person, like top 5 person at this Fortune 50 company that I have the privilege to work for. I was asking her, I had the privilege of sitting down and asking, it was supposed to be a career conversation. I think I completely freaked her out when all I wanted to do, I knew she was a mom, I knew she was married, and I had questions for her on like, how do you get to the level that you're at and seemingly have it together at home? And this is, I don't think she created this, not her thing, but what she said to me really changed how I'm thinking about this whole topic, and especially when I feel guilt coming in. She said, "You will not be able to get an A+ in every aspect of your life. It's not possible. The reason that people are stressed and overwhelmed at home or at work is there's more stuff going on. Our schedules are more jammed than they ever have been. And if you're an achiever, especially, you have this expectation that you have to be A+ in every single aspect of your life. And the biggest takeaway, there's going to be moments as a husband that you have to be a C+ husband. Now, hopefully they're short because you get in trouble, but you might have to be a C+ husband and an A+ employee. There's going to be times that you're going to have to be a C+ employee, but you've got kids that are sick or you're going through a season in your marriage. But you've got to be able to have the grace with yourself to not only be okay with that and to know at that moment what are the areas that I got to lean into and be A+ right now. And they ebb and flow, and every day could be different. That is something that I think we all need to remember is the guilt will take over, and you're going to miss the day-to-day opportunities to have these moments that are amplified.
Yeah. It is interesting when you can take experiences from the corporate world or from our business and apply them at home. By the way, I'm sometimes much better at applying them in a work context.
Totally. I totally agree.
When you think about building relationships, I heard this thing one time about like create a memory and visit it often. And it really was about like when you create moments with, this could be a coworker, it could be a friend, it could be, but like being intentional about those and then coming back and reminding people of them. Like, hey, remember when we did this, this, and this. So I think when you talk about being there, I just keep coming back to this idea of the moments.
Yeah.
How do we have the moments?
Have you read, there's an incredible book by the Heath brothers called The Power of Moments.
So good.
It's such a great book. If y'all haven't read it, check it out. There is, and I'm going to paraphrase, so Heath brothers, I'm sorry, but there's a concept they talk about in there called the peak end theory, right? And the way that they talk about this kind of psychological theory is they use an example that most of us as parents, can relate to if you've taken your child to a theme park, Disney World specifically. And they talk about, and the way they kind of explain it is, all right, Kevin and Laura are in line. Let's say George is 3. It's August in Orlando. So
sounds fun.
A sauna. You're there for 4 days, 5 days, whatever. If every hour on the hour you had a little notification on your phone to rate your experience 1 to 10, the likely culmination of the 4 or 5 days in Orlando with the theme parks and the lines and the sweatiness and the meltdowns and the $17 popcorns and all the things, you're probably walking out of there at like a 2, an average over those 4 days, hour on the hour rating, 2.5 out of 10.
The line is really long.
Totally.
The kid had the breakdown.
We waited in line for 50 minutes to see Mickey Mouse, and my kid didn't even want to see him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So all the things, right? But then it's interesting. If you ask the parents after the vacation, hey, how was your time at Disney? Give some space in between. They're going to remember the peaks or the end. That's the theory. The highest of the high or how the experience ended. So the highest of the high might be George got to see Buzz Lightyear and the look on his face.
Slinky Dog Dash.
Seeing it through his eyes. And the end, fireworks at the end of the night. And so if you apply that, not just to being a dad, but just in life, like what experiences are you giving those around you that are going to be peaks? How do you, again, find the opportunity with your child to connect on a more deep basis, create those core memories that we've kind of talked a little bit about over the last. So that to me is what I would say as we think about these memories is how do you create peaks and high highs? Because there's going to be lows. There's going to be times you're out of town. There's going to be times you can't be there. There's going to be times you need to go out on date night or go on a week-long vacation with Laura to make sure that relationship, but making sure that you've got those highs and those moments with them are going to be vital.
So you've mentioned in this, we've talked about New York and Disney and those big things, but you've also talked about the highlight of New York being a hotel room.
Yeah.
So I think the reminder that I'm taking away is, because if I'm listening to this, there are seasons where, I'll just be honest with you, I wouldn't ever want to listen to a dad podcast because it's like I walk away with the guilt because I can't do this, because I've got to work nights. I don't have enough time. We don't have enough money. But I think we don't have to put pressure on the big, what we perceive as the big moments. To the kids, the big moments, your peak end theory, I mean, the end theory is bedtime every night.
Absolutely.
How do we make that intentional?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
As you think about your childhood, what percentage of some of the big memories, and I'm putting you on the spot, how many of them are on the big trip versus like something that occurs that was just random in theory?
It's funny you say, because when we started this conversation, you made the quote about being there, and I thought back about my dad, and like, yeah, we had some fun vacations and some of that, but I think what I remember most looking back was, so he was a firefighter that worked 24 hours on and 48 hours off, so 1/3 of days he had to be gone, so he wasn't there those times, and then he had another full-time job, but he never missed baseball games. He never missed, and so I look back, and what I remember is that he was there. And so not with a lot of money, not with a lot of things, but just intentional with that. So you're right. I remember the everyday moments and the times that they were there.
Yeah, so I think as we close this conversation out, it's a beautiful way to close it out. I think the pressure that we put on ourselves to create these tentpole moments and experiences it can be crushing, and it's really not relevant. Again, I think that what I would say to our listeners is be there and then continually optimize.
Yeah.
But that's it. Every day. If you have 15 minutes because your job dictates it that you only have a 15-minute window while your children are awake, fine. There's no victim mentality in that. Like, you're probably doing something noble the rest of the day that is providing for your family. But if you're going to have a victim mentality, I only have 15 minutes. I can't do it. It's too whatever. Now I feel guilty because I'm thinking, you have 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Bedtime is what? With my girls, it's like 5 stories and songs, and it takes 40 minutes. But with the boy, like, go in there, say your prayers. What are you thankful for? Optimize. So I would say be there and then continually optimize.
And when you're there.
And when you're optimized.
Be there.
Yeah, and be there. I don't know if you need an Aura box. You can just get a shoe box. But
Yeah, we'd have had this conversation earlier. You could have saved me a bunch of money. So
Yeah, man. All right.
This is really good. I think it's a good challenge for us, and looking forward to applying it.
Yeah, man.
Let's
All
do
right.
it again.
Thanks for listening to Legacy Makers with Kevin Scott and Eric Blumenthal. Make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.